Right, guys. So, I haven't had a video in quite a few weeks actually, and I feel like I should have an explanation for it. Basically, a few people have been asking me on Instagram and all like where my videos have been. Simple answer: I was away in Tenerife from the Burton game and past the Fulham game, so I didn't really. By the time I got back, I didn't really want to talk about it while I was on holiday about relegation and also the Fulham game. It was pointless. And obviously, since then, the takeover things happened. I actually recorded a podcast with Peter about the takeover, but it didn't actually materialise, unfortunately. So, nevertheless, I apologise for that. So, you just have to do with this for now. I'm hoping to get an actual link, a way to link my actual video camera. I've got an old video camera, but it's better quality than this, to link to the computer, and then I can start to put videos up, hopefully of better quality. But for now, hope this will do, and I apologise. So, quite a few things have happened for Sunderland since I last spoke to you. Yeah, well, where do we start? Okay, let's brush aside the Wolves game quickly because that's like the least relevant thing on here. I was at the game yesterday and it was probably the best atmosphere I've been at this season. It was nice to see that players were actually giving the monkeys and actually putting a little bit of effort in. The annoying thing is that it came a little bit too late, and if we'd done that across the whole season, I don't think we'd be in League One next year. But nevertheless, that's just the nature of it. It's happened that way. We just have to get on with it. Played really well, deserved the win, made Wolves, who our country isn't the best team in this league, made them look like a Sunday league team. But you can tell Wolves were on the beach. I was looking at the game and I was saying to Pete and Paul, Wolves are definitely on the beach here. They clearly haven't got the intensity and the effort levels there. But I think Wolves will do all right in the Premier League next year. And I spoke to a few Wolves fans after the game. Absolutely class gestures from them. Gave us praise, saying we should enjoy League One. And obviously, like Wolves, we shouldn't be anywhere near League One. Everyone knows how I feel about that, but I'll quickly brush on that when I talk about relegation in a bit. But Wolves, yeah, Ashley Fletcher's goal was good. McNair's goal was good. Obviously Ajario's was a bit of a fluky, but you've got to be there to put the ball in the back of the net. Deserved to win though, and it was just, and I said, you know what, even though it doesn't mean anything, and it's a shame in the context that it doesn't mean anything for the season, but at the same time, it was just nice to be able to, just enjoy a win. We don't get many wins, so well, why not? I'm just going to not celebrate it, but just enjoy the hell out of it. Why not? I've got a 3-0 win against the champions. Coincidentally, we're the only team that Wolves haven't beaten or scored past this season, so that tells you something, doesn't it? When their goalkeeper, I think it's Horace, had a pretty poor game yesterday. When you see 3 goals to Sunderland, you deserve to get substituted. But anyway, good luck Wolves in the Prem next year. Let's move on to the next topic. So the next one, just looking at my phone because I've actually got just a couple of bullet points just to keep me on track. Relegation. So obviously, for those of you who know by now, obviously Burton and Barnsley are coming down with us. It was actually Burton who relegated us a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, typical Darren Bent. What can you say there? I was just relieved it wasn't Mitrovic that sent us down. I couldn't bear the thought of those mags, the deluded ones that are basically are obsessing over Sunderland or Mitrovic has sent us down, all that. Well, his goal was offside, but it doesn't really matter now, does it? Anyway, relegation. This is the worst. I went into this season thinking I wanted it to be not as bad as last year. And of course it wasn't. It was worse. At least when you get relegated from the Prem, you're getting relegated from a league that's got some decent teams in it. Based on everyone I've watched this season, I haven't seen one decent side. And even obviously, we managed to get a draw down Wolves. I didn't watch that game. Based on yesterday, although it was probably because Wolves were on the beach, I didn't think they looked any good. But in the Prem, like I said, I'm sure that'll be different because we'll have intensity there. But in terms of relegation, it's absolutely pathetic that we've gone from the Premier League to League One and just shot and just dropped like a stone. It's absolutely ridiculous. And this club, to be relegation battle in the Championship is bad enough. To be in League One is pathetic, and it's the worst and lowest point of our history by a country distance. So, the club have now got to really look forward and make sure we are not going to continue sliding again. I can't bear the thought of not getting promoted next season, but I'll talk on to that later. As far as relegation is concerned, we did at least avoid the heartbreak. I was quite happy Bolton stayed up, actually, because this kind of proves my point now. Everyone who says, oh, well, we didn't have enough money and we didn't have any money to spend, so therefore we were automatically destined for the drop. Bolton. That's all I can say, Bolton. They've proved that that's bollocks. With all due respect, that is horse shit, because just because you've got a lack of money does not mean you are destined for the drop. And this is why I will criticise Coleman a little bit, but I'll talk on to that because my next point is the Coleman second. But just because you haven't got you've got a bit of a lack of finances does not automatically mean you are destined to go down. Bolton have had a worse state than us off the pitch and have had probably is, on paper, inferior players on the pitch, but they haven't shirked responsibility. They've stayed up. Our players across the course of the season, yeah, there have been some games where we haven't been good enough. Some. But that doesn't mean in general that we are... Obviously, this season we've deserved to go down, 100%. We haven't been good enough, and that's the key difference. Having been good enough to are not good enough. We have not shown the level of fight and desire, for me, necessary this season to make sure we weren't a League One club next season. And I believe there have been some games where we've played all right, but we've lost. There have been some games, and I could list probably out a dozen of them off the top of my head, maybe 14, 15 games, where we've been sackless and lost and took it up the arse. It's about time that mentality changes because I'm sick of it. Anyway, next point, Coleman sacking. Ultimately, I'm gutted. I know there's Thane ME2 is going to be watching this. Mate, shout out to you. I do like your videos. I know he's obviously not a big fan of Coleman. Look, I can completely get both sides of it. I personally wanted to see Coleman stay next season because honestly, at least he showed the desire to want to be here. However, I've kept saying this, we need to stop this narrative that just because Coleman came and didn't have much room to play with doesn't mean he couldn't have got more out of what he had. For me, there were players in that squad that were consistently underperforming, and especially defensively. Coleman, for me, could have got a lot more out of us at the back, and I think we were far too easy to play against and score past. It was absolutely ludicrous. The goals we kept conceding over and over, and the same type of goals over and over and over again was getting really annoying. Like I said, I wanted Coleman to stay, and I'm gutted that he's gone. But, he's got to take responsibility for this. He was here for 30 games. I think that would have been more than enough to try and keep Sunderland in the Championship. However poor people think we are, and yeah, we have been poor this year, I don't think it's unrealistic to expect to finish ahead of the likes of Burton and Bolton and Barnsley and Birmingham and Reading and all. Well, yeah, the latter two obviously probably have players that should be better than they are. But certainly, Bolton, Burton and Barnsley, I think we should have had enough to be able to comfortably finish above them teams or at least stay up. And especially because Coleman was here over 30-odd games. But look, he did seem genuinely wanting to be here, and I can only applaud him for that. And apparently he's taking part in the Ride for Bradley bike ride with the club, even him and Kit Simmons, even though they've been relieved of their positions. Class gesture from them, and I do wish them nothing but success for the future. I really like Coleman. I like things he said. I think, honestly, he could have brought us back up in League One next year, but I know Thane in particular will disagree with that, but we'll see. You've got players that are allegedly asking to leave. That's the next point. Players that are allegedly asking to leave. Now that, for me, symbolises a severe lack of class as far as I'm concerned, because, there was a report today that reportedly, this is allegedly, there might not be much truth in this, but you've got the likes of Love, Honeyman, and I think it was McNair. These were the three players that were apparently reported to be the ones that want to stay. Or McNair possibly, but the other two certainly. The rest of them apparently have asked to leave. For me, that's gutless. I don't care that our position isn't great. I don't care that we don't know what our owner situation is going to be completely yet. I don't care we haven't got a manager. I'm sorry. Majority of them have been the ones that have got us in this mess, and they should be made to get us out of it. I'm sorry. For me, that's lack of class. Asoro and Madja, if those two have asked to leave, to an extent, Asoro, he's impressed a little bit, but he hasn't really scored many goals, and Madjas hasn't really done anything. So to me, they haven't really got a right to want to be able to be out of the club. But I suppose that's what happens when you get relegated. You're going to get players that are wanting to leave. If that's true, though, that is a bit... If we could just I honestly believe, we could get Asoro and Madja and Watmore and all them and Gooch to stay with, like, Honeyman, McNair and Love. If you could get those players to stay, maybe McGeady, McMahon, possibly, I wouldn't be asked about the rest of them. I really wouldn't. Because a lot of them have let us down consistently, time after time after time, and I'm sick to death of it. And also a good thing, it might at least get their wages off the books. But I think that's cowards jumping the ship, personally. There's no sense of pride at this club, and that's something that's really got to change going forward. So I'm not going to say much more on that. Make of it what you will, guys. That's just how I feel. But I've been wrong plenty of times before, so take that with a pinch of salt if you will. The next one, potential takeover. Right. Stuart Donald, obviously part of an international consortium that wants to buy the club off Ellis Short. And for me, I just pray to God this goes through. I can't see why it wouldn't, but it would be typical Sunderland if something happened that stopped it going through. If that goes through, positivity going into next season should be on the high. It should be on the up, because this club has had far too much mediocrity and far too much acceptance of mediocrity. And Ellis Short, for albeit in the past he's made good decisions, had good intentions, albeit he's made bad decisions. He's had good intentions, and the gesture to wipe off the debt, If that's, I can't applaud the guy enough for that. That is huge for the club. Obviously, we're going to have running costs that are going to be higher than what incomings are going to be. But you've got to remember, you're going to have parachute money coming in. You're going to have player sale money coming in. That's going to cover I imagine the parachute money. I think it's 35 million. That's probably going to, over the course of the season, that's going to cover the running costs of the club for me. And then you've got player sales coming in. I'd like to think that we'd spend a little bit of money in League One, but nevertheless, I'll get onto that in a moment. The potential takeover. If Stuart Donald, the takeover does happen, hopefully it's the start of something good, and it's certainly the start of a new era. That's what the Wolves game felt like, because Stuart Donald was there, and hopefully us beating Wolves has a similar effect in League One than what Newcastle beating Tottenham did in the Championship, except obviously on a much lower scale in terms of money and in terms of quality of players. But you get my point. I hope you do anyway. I want us to be the team that is at the top of the league next year, ideally. But obviously, with the player situation in the summer, we need to see what happens with that. Safe to say, with the takeover or without, it's a big summer ahead, and it's a massive season ahead next year. Which sort of brings me on to my last point, next season. For me, regardless, I don't care. People can think I'm being deluded, but I think I'm being quite realistic when I say this. Any less than getting promoted next year, I think, is a failure of a season. I'm sorry. There comes a cut-off point. I was lenient with the Championship and thinking, it's a tough league, it's a tough division, not in terms of quality necessarily, but in terms of battle and fight. Teams will want it against you in the Championship. So I think if it's going to be a tough league. It was going to be tough, and I wasn't surprised that we didn't get promoted. I certainly didn't expect to get relegated, mind you, but nevertheless, I wasn't surprised to get promoted. League One's my cut-off point. I'm sorry. You have to aim to get to win the league, or at least get promoted. Heck, if I was offered going up by the playoffs now, I'd take it. But really, we should be aiming to win the league. As far the big thing I want to see change though at the club is the mentality of it going forward, on a number of ways. One, I want us to stop having our pants being pulled down in terms of transfers. I don't care if people say you're not in a position to go and ask for much money. You're not in a very good position. But it's for that very reason that we should be pushing for more money when it comes to sales for players. I'm sick to death of accepting low fees for players. There are some players we're going to have to make losses on, like probably Kazri, Delaborgi certainly, and Ndong. But nevertheless, I want to get a good bit of money in. I want to get money at deals that suit Sunderland, not the clubs that are going to go and buy these players. And I do believe these players will have suitors. But anyway, the biggest thing though, I want to see obviously results change. I want to see a lot more wins, a lot less defeats. But at the same time, what I want to see is that. I want to see the mentality of this club completely change. We have got such a soft underbelly, and although obviously against Wolves we were very good and we were in their faces, at the same time throughout the course of the season we have been taking up the arse, and as soon as we get slight touch we get knocked over too easily. I'm sick to death of seeing that, and I want to see a home fortress next season. I want to see that stadium be a fortress level for Sunderland next year. There's absolutely no excuses for that. I'm sick to death of teams also coming up here and thinking they can just help themselves too easily. I'm absolutely done to death with that. The mentality has got to change. We've got to have this mentality of, no, come on, we are Sunderland. With all due respect to League One, we should not be anywhere near this league. We're only going to be here for 1 year, and that means going up, not down to League Two. The last thing I'll touch on is the manager situation. Obviously, the takeover's got to happen first. But if it does happen, and obviously pray to God that it does, Chris Wilder obviously is the big talking point. I would love to see us get him. I think he would be someone who would have a good level of arrogance, especially for League One, to say, well, yeah, we shouldn't be anywhere near this league. And I want teams to fear coming up here. Not saying we're going to look forward to getting 3 points, going to fear coming up here. That's the big thing for next season. Look, guys, I love yous and leave yous there. Apologies I haven't had many videos uploaded. I'm not going anywhere, though, much to everyone's displeasure, I'm sure. But, look, hopefully this is the start of something good. The start of a new good era for Sunderland. We've had people always say you have to support your clubs through the good and the bad times. That's definitely true, but Sunderland have had far too much bad. Far too much bad. We have had nothing to shout about for years. It's about time that changed. Right. Love yous and leave you guys there. Leave comments below and tell me if you want anything you want me to discuss for future videos over the summer. If you want me to talk about the World Cup in any way, shape or form. Whatever you'd like. But either way, guys, see you later. And hopefully, again, start something good for Sunderland. Mentality's got to change. Hopefully, good times ahead. See you later.